Hello Hanji Kidda, what's up people? Back with another video, and today we're previewing Southampton versus Ipswich Town. Before we get into anything, you know we got to do the shout outs. Massive shout outs to Angel Care Homes for all your care needs in the Black Country and Birmingham area. Massive shout outs to Mark Darcy for all your formal menswear needs. And of course to Desi Ballers, highlighting all South Asians at all levels of the beautiful game. I'll put their details in the description, so make sure you check them out. And make sure you smash the like button, and if you ain't already, hit subscribe and turn those notification bell on. Now let's get to it. So I think it's a bit too early in the season to say that this is a must-win game, but it's certainly a 6-pointer. And you know, Southampton, they've started off a bit slowly. You know, they're yet to record a first point on the board, and I think they haven't even scored yet either. But, you know, like we saw last season, they started off slowly and then they put, was it 23 games or something unbeaten run, which obviously got them into the playoffs and then, you know, promoted at Wembley. So it's one of those where I think, again, there's been lots of changes over the summer for that Southampton team. You know, if we just look at some of the transfers that they've signed as an example, they've spent the best part of 100 million. With the likes of, so who do they bring in? They brought in Maxwell Cornet, who, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but he's played at Burnley, I think. He's quite a good player as well. I think he's a winger. They brought in Ogachukwuo, I think his name is. He's the lad that Chelsea brought in, I think maybe last season or the season before from, was it Rennes? One of the clubs in France. They spent about 15-20 million on him. And now obviously they've bought him on loan. He's a bit of a CDM, young player as well. They bought in obviously Lallana back from a free transfer back to, I think that's where he broke through. But you know, certainly spent a good chunk of his career, made a name for himself at Southampton. Ryan Fraser, a player we're familiar with, you know, did really well for us when he was on loan. Saw last season he was doing well for him, so they brought him in. Ben Brenton Diaz, another good signing for them. He had a bit of a shithousery moment with Newcastle. I'm all for that. I thought that was brilliant. You know, he's clearly one of those players that, you know, if he plays for your team, you're gonna love him. If he plays against him, we're gonna hate him. So, no doubt, you know, by the end of by 5 o'clock on Saturday, he would probably wound me up. Fernandez, who's a central midfielder they bought from Sporting, spent a bit of coin on him. Obviously Cameron Archer, the young centre forward, he's not really had a good start to the season, but certainly there's a lot of potential there. We saw that with Villa in the past anyway. Villa's where he's got him from. Of course, they made Aaron Ramsdale, I think, because he used to play for Bournemouth, I'm sure. I don't know, maybe I got that wrong, but I thought Ramsdale used to play for Bournemouth, but he's obviously gone to Southampton now. Good quality goalkeeper. Harwood Bellis, who was a really good defender last season, up there with your likes of Jacob Greaves and Cam Burgess and stuff in terms of best centre backs in the league last season. He was a lad that they had on loan from City. They made that permanent for about, I think it's about 17-18 million. And of course, Flynn Downs, they had him last season on loan. And I think they signed him for about a similar fee, about 16-17 million from West Ham. So they spent the coin. They've got some, you know, arguably some good signings there, certainly on paper. There's a bit of Premier League experience blended in there as well. Similar to kind of, you know, on paper what we're doing as well, you know, youth and also that blend of youth and Premier League experience. So when we look at Southampton's last couple of results, so I'm not including the cup. I know they won on penalties in the cup. I think it was against Everton recently. So the first game, Newcastle away, they lost 1-0. They actually had 11 men for the majority of that game. I think it was majority of the game. I can't remember what minute the guy was sent off. But they'd certainly had 11 men for a good chunk of that game and weren't able to really break Newcastle down. Then at home to Forest, they lost 1-0. And again, Forest just beat Liverpool. So Brentford away, 3-1. Maybe that's one they felt they could have maybe got a point. Maybe that was like us with the Brighton game, you know, where we managed to stop the chances, and Southampton couldn't. And then most recently, they lost at home to Man United. They missed a penalty, and almost immediately after that penalty, they conceded the goal, and you could see the kind of heads dipped. And then, of course, in that game, I think he's their captain, but I think he's the captain or vice captain, but Jack Stevens was sent off, so he'll miss that game. We look at Southampton. Yes, we should feel confident as Town fans that we can beat them, but it's not going to be an easy feat. Yes, we did the double over them last season, and if we're being honest, yes, the game back in September where Amari gets the goal, that was Southampton gelling, if you like. I know some of us don't like that word, but gelling or forming themselves. And then when we beat them on Easter Monday at Portman Road, that first half they were the better team. And we just took our chances, and maybe there was some luck with some things. You think about the way Sarmiento kind of misses it and then hits it in. Whatever, it's one of those that they showed that they are a good team. And I think it's one of those, because they've made a lot of changes and in terms of brought a lot of players in. They've made, I don't know, it seems like they've made a lot of wholesale changes from the off, and players aren't really settling in. So what we saw against United was a 4-2-3-1. So I imagine he'll stick with the same personnel. Obviously, Jack Stevens was out, so I think this is probably where Harwood Bellis comes in. And no disrespect to Jack Stevens, he's a good player, but for me, Harwood Bellis is a very, very good player. Why he's not been in the team, and again, I don't know all the ins and outs of Southampton, but he doesn't seem to be a mainstay at the moment. If it's a 3-5-2, I think it'll suit us on the counter. But if it's a 4-2-3-1, I think we just match up as we do and play our best 11 there. So in terms of team lineup, then for me, I think Muric, he keeps his place. He was phenomenal against Brighton, made some really, really big saves. And let's be under no illusion, the reason we left Brighton with a point was largely down to that man. Left back Leaf, again, he had a tough start to the season. If you look at who he'd played against, you started against Salah, then Savio, and then Adama. Certainly against Adama, I thought he did well. And then again against, was it Matoma? No, it wasn't Matoma. I can't remember. But the other lad for Brighton on their wing, he kept him quiet. Defensively very sound as well. And, hopefully against Southampton, he'll have a bit of license to get forward a bit more. Next to him, Jacob Greaves. Like I said before, he's going to be playing for England soon enough. He's had a really good start to his Ipswich career. I think he's been named the Ipswich Player of the Month for August. And I read a stat recently, and it was something along the lines of no player has had more headed clearances it was either the Premier League or the top 5 leagues in Europe than Jacob Greaves. So next to him, this is where it gets a bit tougher, where we've got to make a bit of a decision. And, Wolfie's had a really brilliant cup. I think it was 3 games that he played, and he was solid and looked the part and really showed what a Premier League player he is. And I was really, really impressed with Dara O'Shea against Brighton. But I think because you need to form partnerships, and we know Jacob Greaves is that mainstay at the left-sided, whether or not that right side is going to be rotated between Wolfie and Dara O'Shea, or whether one of them just holds it down, remains to be seen. But I think, you need to build that partnership. So Dara O'Shea, for me, comes in next to Jacob Greaves. And then right back, Axel Tuanzebe, like I said on the vlog and the review, he was phenomenal. If it wasn't for Muric, he would have got man of the match. Saw him after the game. He was taking Matoma out of his pocket. He was taking Welbeck out of the other pocket. He's really taken to Premier League like we hoped he would, showing that Premier League class. In midfield, and I think this writes itself. So again, Calvin Phillips, I thought he was really good against Brighton, good against Fulham. He's just getting better and better. We're sooner rather than later, we're going to see the same level of Calvin Phillips that we did at the Euro 2021. And next to him, of course, skipper, Mr. Sammy Morsey. that partnership already between the two of them looks really, really good. So then on the left, I think we'd go for Sammy Szmodics. Whilst I actually think probably Szmodics' best position is the 10, but I do like, again, he's a ball carrier. He obviously played against Southampton last season. And also it's that pressing. So again, whether Southampton have a 3-5-2 or they go a 4-2-3-1, we're going to need numbers in midfield, and we're going to need to kind of, double up on people and stuff like that. And I think Sammy Szmodics, is a player that you need to be starting. If you want to be pressing teams and you want to hit on the counter, he's the man. And you put Sammy out on the left, which means you can put Starboy, Mr. Omari in the 10. I think that's probably his strongest position there, or the right wing. But I think certainly that number 10, being able to make those runs, link up with the players. On the right, had a good game against Brighton. Mr. Wesley Burns, I think he starts. And then up top, Liam Delap, I think his running power, the way he brings people in, we know what his shot's like as well. And I've got a feeling he's going to get a goal or assist or something on Saturday. So when we look at the head-to-head, there's been 20 draws. Southampton have won 23, but we've edged it with 27 wins. And hopefully it'll be 28 wins come 5 o'clock Saturday. So before we get into score predictions, I just want to mention the man in the middle. And the man in the middle is none other than that man, Mr. Sam Allison. Who's Sam Allison, I hear you asking? I'm glad you asked. Sam Allison, you may remember him from that Etihad shit show performance earlier on in the season. Yes, Sam Allison is the referee who last officiated between us and Man City. He's the one that, rightly, and credit where it's due, gave the penalty against Leif Davis, but he's also the same referee that went, like Stevie Wonder, went blind and did not see when Leif Davis was hacked down in City's box. But it's not the first time he's refereed us. I've got a few stats here. So, over the years, we've had, including the City game, we've had 5 games with Mr. Sam Allison in the middle. So, first one was at home to Fleetwood in 2021. He likes a yellow card. There was 5 yellows during that game. Next one, again in League One, this time away at Portsmouth when Chaplin gets that last minute equaliser. Not so many yellows there was only 2. And so far so good. Nothing really bad to report on the refereeing or the officiating levels. Now, Sunderland. Ipswich v Sunderland earlier on this calendar year in January denied a blatant penalty when Omari was kicked up in the middle of the air. Referee didn't see it. Fortunately, we won that game 2-1. We all remember Travis's celebration at the end. I think that was a good celebration as well. But again, penalty decision, Ipswich Town, Sam Allison goes Stevie Wonder. Then we had when we had Middlesbrough at home towards the end of the season. That was a 1-1. Don't think there was too much controversial. There was a few kind of fouls that he wasn't given or whatever, but no more than usual. And then, of course, the Man City game recently, earlier on in the season. So, Sam Allison, man in the middle. It's going to be interesting to see what happens should there be a penalty shout for us on Saturday. Now, I don't want to start bad-mouthing the ref already. We ain't even kicked the ball yet. But it is kind of, if you like, his history with us. Whilst, there hasn't been anything in terms of majorly detrimental, penalty, not giving the penalty against City. Okay, if we get the penalty, would it have likely changed the outcome? Probably not. Didn't give the penalty against Sunderland, but we won anyway. So, again, didn't really affect us. But there may come a point when we're not so fortunate. And that's my worry. Because I think the way we play, we're going to get fouled. Omari was battered and bruised on Saturday last week against Brighton. You know, Jack Clark, another ball carrier. You can see he's gonna get you draw fouls. Schmodik's the same. You know, Liam Delap the same, right? And my worry is that we're gonna get a penalty shout, a stone cold penalty shout, and Mr. Sam Allison is gonna become Stevie Wonder again. But let's not put the negativity out in there. Hopefully he's learnt from his errors and he's a good referee. Let's see. It remains to be seen. So in terms of score predictions, for me, if I'm looking at that game and I'm looking at, look, we score a great counter-attacking goal against one of the best teams in world football in Man City, right? We score a very good goal at home against Fulham, against a well-established Premier League team, right? We then defend really well against a very attacking Brighton team who have put many teams to the sword and, you know, held their own against Arsenal the week before. So I can see all the positives there. And then I look at the flip side, and this is no disrespect to Southampton, because I actually quite like Southampton as a football club. You know, I just don't like their manager. I think their manager's a donut, but that's another conversation. But, you know, I think Southampton have the quality. They have good players. They just don't have a manager that knows how to adapt. They have a manager that knows how to play one way of football, and that's it. And we're going to see it on Saturday, because I think Southampton will end up dominating the game in terms of possession, like they did back on Easter Monday. You know, but again, we saw how that turned out. And the problem with Russell Martin is play out from the back, pass, find a pass, little triangle, space, draw player out, go for a shot or whatever. But everyone's doing it, so it's predictable, and you have to be able to switch that up. And I'd have thought Russell Martin would have seen what happened with Vincent Kompany last season to be like, okay, you have to adapt. In League One, we did that. We were the possession team. We battered teams. But when we come to the champ, we had to adjust it slightly. Not for all our games, but, you know, certainly 6 or 7 of the team. There was a good 6 or 7 teams in the Championship that were better at possession football than us last season. But we still finished second because we adapted. Now this season, again, we've adapted our style and we've managed to put 2 points on the board, put 2 goals up there as well. And yes, every point just keeps you ticking along, and it's a point closer to, well, I said 14th or whatever, right? And I still stand by that. But Russell Martin doesn't know how to do that. Like I said, I don't like the guy. I think he'll be sacked before Christmas, because I think if Southampton want to stay up, they've got to get rid of him. They've got to get a manager that knows how to play Premier League. Like Russell Martin doesn't know how to play the Premier League. So based on all of that, I think it's going to be a game where we're going to take our chances and they're not going to have theirs. And it's one of those where you look at the game last week where they played against United. They started off brightly, but that goal just killed them. They're a team that doesn't seem to be able to have... They haven't got someone on the pitch that will just lift their heads up when things aren't going right. Like, I don't see that. And that has to come from the bench first. And if Martin don't know how to do it, then, you know, is captain or whatever, how's he going to relay all that? So it's not a criticism on the players at all. It's more Russell Martin, as you gathered. I don't like Russell Martin. But yeah, I think it's going to leave spaces, and I think we're going to take our chances. So I think we're going to leave Southampton with all 3 points. And I'm going for a 2-0 Town win. So let me know what you think. Let me know your score predictions. Like I said, I'll do the vlog, and hopefully I'll get the vlog out Sunday lunchtime-ish. If you're down there, let me know. I'll be down there around sort of 1-ish. I reckon I'll get there. And yeah, man, just looking forward to it. And I think, you know, Saturday is the day that we record our first win of the season. So I'll catch you all at Southampton.